Free agency starts today, and the Grizzlies are up to something big. Of course, with the extension of Jaren Jackson Jr., the trade that included Cole Anthony, and a possible signing of Ty Jerome to the Grizzlies, we have a lot to talk about here today on Grizzlies Digest. But before we begin, I want to welcome everybody back. I'm Tristan Harlan, excited to be back with you. I know Jared's kind of been handling business the last two videos, but I'm glad to get back into the full swing of things after the NBA draft. But for those of you that don't know, today was the opening of free agency, and before we get into our discussion about that, I want to remind everybody that 91.1% of you guys are not subscribed and 8.9% of you are, and that bar is slowly trickling up. And if you like what you see, like what you hear, like to know everything that's going on with the Memphis Grizzlies and want to stay in tune with the Grizzlies, make sure you're clicking that red subscribe button because it's everybody's favorite price, free $99. But yeah, so today, Monday, started the NBA free agency, and hey, it's Monday. If you made it to today and you made it to this time, I want to say congratulations and thank God it's Monday. It's a brand new week full of brand new opportunities, and if you're sitting at work, sitting at your job, or sitting at home enjoying the summer weather, I want to say thank you again for tuning in. But diving into this, the Grizzlies are kind of up for a crazy offseason. Now, I know I've kind of touched on it briefly, talking about the draft and talking about the end of the season and stuff like that, but we have almost seen a complete 180 from where the Grizzlies originally planned to go with their offseason plans to where we are now. Because, of course, when they traded up to take Cedric Howard with the Trailblazers pick, it kind of threw a wrench in things. And Cole Anthony they were trying to move Cole Anthony, but nobody wanted to take his contract. So there's a lot of things going on here for the Memphis Grizzlies. And, you know, we talk about cap space for free agency and what teams can do what. And, you know, shout out to capsheets.com and Anthony Sane for posting this on his Twitter and whoever he found this from. But, of course, the Nets, it seems like right now they're signing everybody. And the Grizzlies, they have just about $4.5 million in free agency to kind of play with. But that's all dependent on a lot of different things. Now, of course, a lot of people are saying that they need to go ahead and sign Jaren Jackson Jr. to the extension, because if they don't do it this season and they wait till next offseason, then it possibly could come back to bite the Grizzlies in the tail end because of the Supermax. Other people are saying go ahead and wait. That way you have a little bit more breathing room and you can play around and try to sign different free agents. But talking about Jaren Jackson Jr., right now he's making almost $23.5 million. Now, Memphis can renegotiate this contract. And right now with the cap space, including Santi Aldama's free agency hold because he is a restricted free agent, and they project the Grizzlies to have about $6.9 million in cap room. Now, you're seeing the veteran extension in the middle there. And again, this is all thanks to capsheets.com and Anthony Sane posting this on Twitter and stuff like that. But if the Grizzlies wait to re-sign Jaren Jackson Jr. next offseason, not only are you running the risk of having to give him the Supermax, but you're also running it thin on a possible extension with Ja Morant, depending on how this season goes and who you sign this offseason's free agency time period. Because, I mean, we've already talked about it a little bit, but Cole Anthony, who was brought to the team via the Desmond Bane trade that brought Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, a buttload of picks, as well as Cole Anthony, as we mentioned, you brought them to the team. And now Cole Anthony is almost chewing up a good 30% of your cap space right now. Now, it's all dependent if Marvin Bagley, Yuki, Cam Stevens, I think that's his last name, Cam Stevens. My mind just drew a blank. But you got all these free agents that if they walk, you'll have upwards of $10+ million to play with. But if you bring back Santi Aldama and you re-sign Jaren Jackson Jr., then that's your offseason, you know, because you don't want to go too far and then under the cap, because if you want to give Ja Morant an extension next season, then, you know, you're going to be chomping at the bit trying to move assets around to get the cap space for it. But If you don't do that, then there's possibly some people that you could look to add to the team. Now, one person in particular is Ty Jerome. Now, I know a lot of people in our comment section on X, formerly known as Twitter, and even on Instagram is kind of indifferent between whether they want Ty Jerome on the Grizzlies or whether they don't want Ty Jerome on the Grizzlies, because some people said, he's a great shooter, but he takes a dip in the playoffs, and then other people said that Jerome would be the great fit to replace Desmond Bane and stuff like that. And right now, Ty Jerome is actually one of the only free agents that currently still has a tie to the Grizzlies, with today being the first day of free agency. Now, we talked about Marvin Bagley the third. Of course, if you bring Marvin Bagley back on a cheaper deal, then not only do you bring back a forward that can play basketball, but you bring back a forward that kind of is a quote unquote veteran that has been in an NBA situation before, can really help these younger guys get accustomed to the NBA speed and stuff like that. But look, here's the thing. Excuse me, and I'm just going to be honest with you guys. Right now, the Grizzlies are in prime position. Now, what I mean by that is, you retool your team, and I'm not saying go out and sign Dorian Finney-Smith or Walker from the Timberwolves or Marvin Bagley or Ty Jerome. I'm saying you possibly try to bring Bagley back. You bring Santi back, or you try to trade him, and you run it back. And look, right now, the Grizzlies probably aren't going to be able to move Cole Anthony until the break. And the break being the All-Star break and the trade deadline. Because with free agency to where it is right now, nobody has cap space. Now, I don't know. I mean, I say nobody has cap space, but teams have cap space, but they're not going to want to bring on. They're not going to want to bring on Cole Anthony, who's right now chewing up 30% of the Grizzlies cap room, and somebody who is possibly not even going to be starting on another NBA roster because of how guard heavy the league is right now. Now, on the other end of the sword, the Grizzlies could hold on to Cole Anthony for the entire season, and once some of these other teams as free agents start to go up and they don't re-sign their superstars, and they could look to dealing then. But the only problem that kind of brings up is that if the Grizzlies do that, now by all means, if that's what they choose to do, sure, I'll cheer for them. I'll root for the Grizzlies no matter what. I'll still be here on Grizzlies side just to break games down with you guys. But if they choose to hold Cole Anthony, and there's nobody out there that can realistically make the trade, the Brooklyn Nets don't want him, nobody wants him, so he's stuck in Memphis, then what do you do about Santi? What do you do about the forward in the center positions where you're kind of running thin on it, and your guards, people are fighting for a piece of the pie in the guard room. I'll put it to you that way. So we're looking at this, and again, we go back and we look at the cap space. The Grizzlies right now, $4.5 million, and you go back to Jaren Jackson. To me, and I know I've said this a couple times already, but to me, the number one priority has got to be getting this contract figured out with Jaren right now, this offseason, because here's the problem. I don't want the Grizzlies to run into an issue where they wait to give Jaren the contract, and they'd rather give him a supermax, and they give Jaren all the cap room, and then you come to the 26-27 offseason, and now Ja Morant's contract's up. How do you get Ja Morant back to Memphis on a contract that is suitable for him, is suitable for the team, and it doesn't put the team in so much cap depth that they just aren't able to re-sign anybody? Now, there's a lot of people out there that are better with money than I am. There's a lot of people out there that had better math grades than I did. But the way I'm looking at it is right now, I agree with some of you. Santi and Jaren need to be your number one, and number two priority, with Jaren being number one. Your number 3 priority needs to be finding a big or finding a forward that you can get on a relatively cheaper deal to possibly be your bench, not your bench warmer, but your substitution at the 4 or the 5. That way, once Brandon Clark and Zach Edey come back, then you can alternate between the 2 at the 5 if one comes back before the other or whatever the case may be. But the other issue is what do you do about the 3? Now, I want to go back and talk about Ty Jerome, because if that's what you do and you still have money left over and Jerome's a guy that you bring into town, you bring into Memphis, the only issue I'm seeing is that you're going to run into something that a lot of fans were talking about on Twitter, and it's something that kind of irks me, because you just and this is not, I'm not trying to go at Kleiman when I say this, but I'm putting this into retrospect. Kleiman says the Grizzlies are not one piece away from being a championship contender. Okay, that's fine. But 2022 and 2023, those playoff series, when the Grizzlies looked really good, when the navy blue uniforms were debuted and Tyus Jones was still on the roster, Brandon Clark was still on the roster, Zaire Williams was still on the roster, were we one piece closer then? Or were we still one piece away? And if that's the case, then why did it take losing Tyus Jones and Zaire Williams? Now, don't get me wrong, Zaire Williams, the writing was on the wall. He was going to end up leaving regardless. Happy he's flourishing in Brooklyn. Go do your thing, bro. Whatever. But you have this group of guys that they're still around. Now, I'm not saying I'm not going to play the what-if game, because quite frankly, we'll just go down the rabbit hole and we'll be here for probably an hour. And I know you guys don't want to hear me talk for an hour about the Grizzlies. But if we go down that rabbit hole and you put this roster in aligns with the roster where Steven Adams and Brandon Clark was healthy, John Morant was in his, was before the injuries John Morant suffered in the suspension, and Jaren, Defensive Player of the Year Jaren, you kind of mesh those together, and you have exactly what the Oklahoma City Thunder are. I mean, there for a while, what the Grizzlies had is what the Thunder are currently doing, and the Thunder just currently won a championship with that scheme, and with that ideology of the roster. So, again, I'm not going to play the what-if game here, but what I will say is this: with the money the Grizzlies have, and when I say the money the Grizzlies have, the $4.5 million, with the money they have there, they've got to be smart about this. Now, we talked about Cole Anthony. Now, and I came across this, I cannot remember where now that I'm looking at this, but it's saying that Jerome was intent on securing a deal that starts at the full $14.1 million mid-level exception as after a breakout season in Cleveland. So it remains to see how much the Grizzlies are actually willing to pay Jerome, given their well-chronicled determination to maintain sufficient financial flexibility to renegotiate and extend the contract to Jaren Jackson Jr., match any offers of restricted free agent Santi Aldama. Again, shout out Anthony Sane. I pulled this from his Twitter because this is where I've seen it. But again, this shows you that the Grizzlies tried to move Anthony to kind of free up some more cap space. But here's the problem, okay? Robert Parra is like one of the top 5 richest owners in the NBA, and the Grizzlies are still fighting for cap space. Now, I understand, and I get it. The Grizzlies are in a small market. Memphis is not the Miamis or the New Yorks or the Los Angeleses of the world. But if the Grizzlies have an owner that's one of the top 5 most richest owners in the NBA, or governors, whatever they're calling it now. I've always known it as owners, so if it's now governors and I say owners, please, I do apologize, and just bear with me because I'm used to the old terminology. But if the Grizzlies have an owner or a governor that's top 5 in most riches, and the Grizzlies only have $4.5 million in cap space with how the roster's laid out, I don't know, man. I'm not going to say something fishy's going on, but it definitely doesn't help the Grizzlies, the fact that Robert Parra has is in the top 5 most richest owners in the league, and Zach Kleiman is still gasping for straws when it comes to free agency. But final statements, this is what I will say. As of 1:20, this is probably going to go out at 1:30. So by the time you're watching this, it'll probably be later, and more news will probably have broken. If there's anybody the Grizzlies really need to try to get, it's Dorian Finney-Smith. 8.7 points per game, 3.9 rebounds a game. This guy, when he plays the Grizzlies, he plays very, very well. Same goes for Roy Hachimura. I mean, he's really good. Now, Walker, on the other hand, that's not somebody I can realistically make the Grizzlies, seeing the Grizzlies getting free agency, just because I don't think the Timberwolves are going to let him go. I don't think the Timberwolves are really going to let anybody go, because I'm sure they believe they have a championship contender as well. Now, again, going over with Marvin Bagley, I would love to see him come back, but I understand if he's kind of the one that gets cut because of contracts and because of cap space. But I would love to see him come back just to fill that forward spot. But the 5 things, okay, and I'm just going to give 5 things that the Grizzlies need to do, and I'll wrap it up, and we'll come back for another video if there's something else that breaks. Number 1, it's re-sign Jaren to the extension. Either sign Santi to a qualifying extension, or sign him and trade him. Get a big to ease the tension off of Jaren, and possibly someone that's a 5 that's not super expensive. That way, if you need to move him at the deadline once Edey and Clark get back, you can. 4, it's find a way to get Dorian Finney-Smith. I mean, that's just point blank simple. Unless the Grizzlies are confident with Cedric Cowherd starting, which I am, or Jaden Wells starting, which I am, then you need to get somebody who's a veteran that can kind of have that experience and have that sort of familiarity to where they can kind of help train and, help those rookies out. And number 5, it's don't screw it up, because quite literally, the Grizzlies possibly go to 7 with OKC if Ja doesn't get hurt, if that dirty play never happens and Ja gets hurt, then I'm just saying things possibly could have went differently. Now, again, congratulations to the OKC Thunder for winning the championship, but anyways, guys, real quick before we go, I just want to remind everybody once again that 91.1% of you are not subscribed and 8.9% of you guys are. So if you like what you see, like what you hear, like talking about the Grizzlies, make sure you're clicking that red subscribe button. It's everybody's favorite price, free $99. And ladies and gentlemen, let me know what you think in the comments. Who are your top free agents you'd like to see the Grizzlies get? Let me know down in the comments. And if you want to share this video on social media, use the hashtag GrizzFA and tell me all about it. At Tristan_Harlan is my X handle. So, again, guys, this has been another episode of Grizzlies Digest. Remember to click that subscribe button, comment who you'd like to see the Grizzlies sign up free agency, and stay tuned for another episode of Grizzlies Digest. Thank you all so much for watching. We'll see you guys next time.